was thinking maybe this would be a good time to talk.
When I was in film school, a teacher of mine played a few scenes from Breaking Bad in order to talk about production design. Production design is basically a fancy way to say interior design for video. Props, wallpaper, chairs, whatever. My teacher talked about how Walt had closed doors and square cabinets on his side, and Skylar had circular plates, open windows, and an open hallway. If you know anything about the plot of Breaking Bad, the production design and placement of these characters in these scenes can kind of take on a new meaning. Of course, this was just a cool way for that teacher to get us kids thinking about motivated production design, but for me, it made me look into what I think is the most underrated aspect of Breaking Bad as a series. Its attention to detail, specifically with using squares as a motif for Walt's choices boxing him in. Squares and circles have very deliberate and motivated uses in the story throughout all 5 seasons. If you really look, they're hidden in some pretty cool places. I rewatched the entire series to grab some of my favorite examples. Of course, a lot of the squares and circles that show up are going to be either unintentional or just plain meaningless, as confirmed by producer Peter Gould and location scout Alex Giannopoulos. But Peter said that some of it was intentional, and even Vince Gilligan himself has said he's no stranger to subtext and other, quote, artsy-fartsy things like that.
This is art!
Even if 100% of the instances of squares and circles are the equivalent of me looking for things that aren't there, like the end of The Witness, I think that something like this can add another layer of complexity and appreciation onto what's already there, and make you think about similar motifs in other media.
Where is this going, exactly?
What would discussions on The Shining or 2001: A Space Odyssey be without speculations on details like this? Squares in particular show up all the time in set design, the title sequence, clothes, etc. But circles are a little bit more rare. However, they're not without their motivated uses. Take the scene when the Doctor is talking to Walt and Sky. Who's on the left? And what's this? And who's on the right? And what's this? The examples keep coming. Squares are more common, but they do show up a lot in subtle spaces. I mean, look at some of the outfits that Walt wears, especially in the beginning of the show. Plaid, squares. I mean, I've heard of wearing your heart on your sleeve, but this is a little ridiculous. More than just clothes, though, there are constant uses of square tiles and windows in tons of sets. It's easy to dismiss this sort of thing as coincidence, but, and I hate to break your immersion here, these clothes, props, and sets were, more often than not, made for the show, if not very carefully scouted by its crew beforehand in order to match what they needed. I mean, look at Walt's apartment. He's separated from his family and metaphorically boxed in because he made a huge mistake.
I made a mistake.
His apartment reflects that. You can see these squares everywhere here. Anyway, aside from the examples I've already shown, I'd like to highlight what I think are some of the most motivated and intentional uses of squares. A really easy example to point to is Walt's watch that Jesse gives him in season 5. Time has always been Walt's greatest enemy. Drug cartels, box cutter wielding fried chicken salesmen, and Nazis aside. And the series takes many opportunities to let us know.
Wait for what? What are you waiting for?
For the cancer to come back.
Seriously, every time we see the White's house, there's a clock sound effect in the background that's just ticking and shaving Walt's life away. It's very subtle, but it's very effective. The watch is the strongest visual metaphor for how time is boxing Walt in and limiting his ambitions and lifespan. And seriously, they could have gotten any watch at all for Jesse to give Walt, but they chose a square watch, and I think that's absolutely a motivated choice. Here's my favorite example, though. Later on in the series, there's an episode titled Crawlspace. Walt basically loses all the money he's earned to the guy that his wife is cheating on him with. He goes to the crawlspace to get the money, realizes it's already gone, and essentially succumbs to the absurdity of his own life. He could have had his cancer treatment paid for by former business partners. His family would be safe. He wouldn't be making meth. Basically, if he let his pride take a back seat, he'd be fine. But instead, his decisions are boxing him in. As the camera moves up and up, the square opening in the crawl space visually boxes Walt in. We've already seen multiple different shots of Walt in the crawl space throughout other episodes, and even in the scene itself. But it was the director/DP's idea to end the episode with this slow camera movement that represents just how screwed over Walt is, and that it's all his fault, resulting in easily one of the best scenes in modern television. So there you go. Vince and his team were given the budget, time, and resources needed to make something that's truly rare. Something that after 10 years still packs emotional weight, artistic meaning, and immense technical skill from the writing room to the editing room. Watching this series over again for this project while hunting for shapes has added a new layer of appreciation beyond what already existed for me. And I hope that this video did the same for you. But even after all my examples and word from people that actually worked on the show, you might still be saying, I don't know, this seems like a little bit too much work to hide all these details. And to that I say this. Be it The Room or The Shining, it's all art. Behind these works is a team of talented, collaborative people that want to make the best, most effective final product that they can. It might seem hard to believe that people put so much work into hiding these subliminal shapes and strategic moments to enhance the show on a mostly unconscious level, but to me, it's harder to believe that they didn't.
We're done when And I say we're done.
I'm done.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching today's episode of Entertainment System on Hidden Squares and Breaking Bad. If you like what you saw, please leave a little like down there or a comment. Tell me if you think that these squares are me just reading too far into things or if it was intentional. If so, what was your favorite one? If you're so inclined, I also have a Patreon if you want to become a patron. That gets your name in this little fancy section where I have some of the best people in the world on display. So, with that, I hope you have a great day today and every day thereafter. Thank you.